So I'm going to go out on a limb. Xander, say hi, Xander. Xander and I are going to go out on a limb. And we're going to say that if you're a woman business owner, you've probably worried about today's topic. And I'm not even going to say like worried once. You probably worry about today's topic every single day. And I think that's an interesting reason why we should talk about this today. What we're really going to talk about is how do you balance being successful in your business while still being devoted to your family and to family life. So I'm just checking my notes, but the reason why this is important is I think this has been one of the biggest struggles that I've gone through in my 15 years of being a business owner, because I truly started my business because, yes, I wanted to be in business. Yes, I wanted to, bring home some money into my family, have financial contribution into my family. But at the end of the day, I also really wanted freedom to be a mom, to be where I needed to be when I needed to be there. And I'm going to share here in a second. I've succeeded and I have failed, and every way in between. So I want to share that story with you, but also share some tips on just really how you can make this happen for yourself in your own business. If this is our first time ever chatting, howdy, how are you? My name is Leslie Hassler. I own Your Biz Rules Business Coaching, and I work with women-led service businesses to grow and scale in a way that's profitable and sustainable so that you can do great work, you can spend time with your family, and be successful doing it. So let's talk a little bit about, I just feel the need that I want to share a couple of things with you before I get to the tips. Number one, I put this excerpt of a quote from Mark Cuban in my book, First This Then That, when I talked about work-life balance. And I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have it directly in front of me. But basically the quote is Mark saying that when it comes to choosing, he knows that if he fails at business, he can succeed again. He can always get another business. He can always bounce back. He can always do another idea. But when it comes to his family, there are no do-overs. And in that way, he will always put his family ahead of business. Now, you've got to admit, he's a pretty successful man, and it may seem easier to get that work-life balance, if you will, be devoted, be successful when you've got a lot of money behind you. I'm going to tell you that's actually can be 10 times more challenging because there's so many more demands on your time and your attention. For myself, I started my first business when my children were, so it was 2007, so Christian was 1. Edwin would have been working on 3. And at first, totally, I was able to make that work. And I basically worked about 3 days in my business and as I was growing it and getting it going, and then spent 2 days with them. So they would be in like a Mother's Day out program 3 days a week. And if you know what that is, you know that's really not a whole lot of time. And then I would just focus on being a mom on the other days. And that worked really well. And we were gaining traction and being successful. And I'd already hired somebody when the Great Recession hit the business and everything went south. And my own choice, I felt like what I needed to do was double down on the business and that I could spend more time with them later. Except that the weeks or months that I thought that I was going to need to give to my business turned into years. And I found myself in a place of working 80-hour work weeks, trying to make things happen in my business. Finally got some help. We grew it back. I hired back. I mean, like all the success markers, check, 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 check. Except I couldn't stop working. I was too scared to give myself the freedom to do so. 2012, we decided to move from Houston to Dallas because we had family that needed to have some assistance in the area. And I had to pull myself out of the business in order to make that transition happen. And I remember the moment that I sat down to do my numbers, it was like maybe the end of a summer that I've been going back and forth like crazy. Sat down to do my numbers, and I looked at it and I was like, wow, we grew. I was surprised. We grew 25%. And it wasn't because of me. It wasn't tied to my hours of effort. I immediately got mad because I was like, when could I have started that? It's not that my goal is to work like a mad fiend. It wasn't at all. The exact opposite. I was just too scared to stop. And I had kept myself too busy in my business to allow my team to step up. And so I started playing a game right then and there. I started playing a game going, how few hours can I work and still grow a business? And so I want to share some of the tips of what I've learned over time, some of the things that I have found to be very successful. And I will tell you that I kind of feel like they're not the norm. Like they're not the thing that all the time management experts are out there telling you or selling you. They're just what's really worked for me in my own business. So here's tip number 1. So a way that you can be successful in your business and still be devoted to your family is understand that it's not about conflict. It's about harmony. Okay? Let me say that again. Not about conflict, it's about harmony. Work-life balance, already like in that phrase, puts the two things in conflict with each other. It's one or the other, right? We're trying to balance two ends. Instead of understanding that it's two halves of a whole. And so if you can think of this, that if you are the queen of your castle, like give yourself a crown, you're a queen, you're the queen of your kingdom, you're the queen of your business, you're the queen of your castle. And as such, you have two subjects. You have the business, who's a baby in some ways, right? And you have your family. And both of these subjects are equally important. They both add value to your life. They are supportive, hopefully, of each other, if you've set it up to be that way. And so if you look at, we want harmony, you're like raising two children here, where you may not treat them the same. You may not give them the same things in order to succeed because they need different things. But you are harmonious in your attention to them. You're not pitting them against each other. You're not putting one down, picking one up, and making one feel neglected. You are giving a much more harmonious viewpoint. When you understand that they're two halves of the whole that you have to balance, it's almost like parenting two children. You know, my boys, whoo, dog, they are as different as the day is long. What works with one does not work with the other. We totally have to have different strategies with each child, but we still parent them equally, if you will. Like we love them equally. We look out for their health and their welfare equally. So I want you to take that first step. Like treat it as a harmonious union, not as a conflict. Like that is a mindset shift that will really have you reevaluate how you're trying to manage both sides of balancing a growing a business and that devoted family life. So tip number 2. I don't know, I was always fascinated by how did some celebrities do it. And I remember wanting to research how like Heidi Klum, my Lord, that woman does so many things. And I was like, how does she get it all done? And then she goes to bed at 9 o'clock at night. Like she goes to bed early. She goes to bed when her kids go to bed at the time. And so I started studying and looking at what is it that supremely successful people, supremely busy people do to balance. And one of the things was make a schedule to actually put things on the calendar, to not leave things to the chance. And here's the kicker. Adhere to it. Follow the schedule. If 9 a.m. says work out, then 9 a.m. is work out. Like, honor your own commitments. I feel like people will honor an appointment with a client over honoring an appointment with yourself. So really understand that if we're going to treat everything as harmonious, our tip number 1, that 2, we've got to make time for each other. The other part of that, making a schedule, is not to be too myopic, not to be so much that you're looking for balance within a day, but understanding that you're looking for balance over time. So if I'm doing a launch in my business, like we did before Black Friday. Black Friday, we had a big launch. It was about 7 or 8 weeks of effort, team development, team effort to get to this launch. And so I did work more in my business during that time. Now, that made my appointments with my family that much more important, right? But I made allowances. And as soon as we moved past that launch, I moved back into what I would say is normal time. Sometimes, though, I have to put more time into my family. Either we've got a family member sick, something that we have to deal with, school, a million and one things, right? And I do the same schedule shift in reverse. So 2, make a schedule, stick to it. 3 is about delegation. So delegation is a huge component of being able to balance a growing business and a devoted family life. And the thing that I need you to understand all the way through this conversation together is if you can ask yourself the question, who, not how. Not how are you going to get dinner on the table? Who can get dinner on the table? The delegation can happen in so many ways. I had a client this year where we had done a really good job of building up her team, but the nature of her business still had a primary driving effort on her. And so as she was becoming more successful, there were balls that she felt like were being dropped personally. And as we talked about what those things are, we're like, oh, you need a house manager. You need a personal assistant. Because whether you're doing the laundry or not is not really that important. Does it really add value? Maybe you enjoy it. But those are the questions to ask is, if you can delegate, sometimes you have to delegate on the work side, but also delegate on the personal side and really get down to what is the most important things. For me, currently, as you can see, people are walking out, so I better hurry up with our video. Picking up my son, my younger son, is really important to me. He's about to be a driver. And so these car conversations are about to get limited. And I know how priceless they are. I have 2 boys. Some of the best conversations happen in the car. So I want to be available for that. That's why I'm sitting in a school parking lot, still doing some work, if we're honest, right? But I probably have 4 minutes, and then it's time to turn my attention. Plus, you don't want to be with a teenage driver or me. That could be fun. 4 is about you. 4 is, if you are going to be able to manage all of this and to be at your peak performance, you need to take some time to rejuvenate, to relax, to have that space in between where you can actually problem solve, where you can think of the who's that could be helping you in your life. Make sure, not just daily, because daily is important, you have your daily habits, but weekly, if you've had a big push, make some time to recover from that big push. You're not a machine. You're not a high-performance vehicle. You're human. And it's okay to take a day. All right. So, but give yourself the permission to do that. I think that's really key. And I think the 5th one is truly about finding that support, finding the support network, whether it's personally, whether it's family, whether it's in business. One of the conversations that we have so much of in our mastermind is time management, is balance. And it's balance for women entrepreneurs who have children and who don't have children, but maybe they have active hobbies or they have family members that they're trying to take care of. They're committed to their business, but they're also committed to their family. And really talking to people about what you're going through, what you're up against, what solutions you can bring to the table, what other ways you might be able to delegate that you just didn't think of, that is so absolutely important. So I hope that's really helpful to you. We've gone over 5 ways that you can balance a growing business and still have a devoted family. So we're just going to recap real fast. 1 is treat things harmoniously, not in conflict. You are the queen of your castle, right? And everything is important and you can make time for it. 2, make a schedule, stick to it. Realize that schedule might ebb and flow for different periods of your life, but you can do it. Delegate. Find your who's, both professionally and personally. Take breaks throughout the day to rejuvenate. And 5 is find a support group that can understand where you're coming from and offer support and hints and tips. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you're doing well. This is Leslie Hassler with Your Biz Rules Business Coaching.